Oh, lovely.
Yes. And good evening, everybody out there, and good evening to you, Elizabeth, as well. I'm Jack Eckhart. I'm the host tonight in the absence of Lawrence. He's busy in the church and with Kim Cullen, that is medium for this weekend, and doing the morning service tomorrow as well. But with us tonight, we have the lovely Elizabeth Titterton. So, very warm welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Jack. It's lovely to be back. I've enjoyed my times doing this for Poole Christian Church. So it's really lovely to be back, Spiritualist Church, I should say. So thank you for inviting me here. Thank you.
Yeah. And Elizabeth, we're going to talk a little bit about philosophy or aspects of philosophy this evening. But before we go there, I'll just say to people out there, please join in with your inquiries, your questions, comments, and things. And we will answer questions during the next hour as well. I know Elizabeth had good knowledge. I has a little bit myself. And we definitely have our opinions to share as well. So, Elizabeth, you were on here together with Lawrence about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and where you shared a little bit of your philosophy or your guys' philosophy, some of the things you have been written.
Yes. Yeah? Yes, that was really, really lovely for me, just to kind of peel back the layer a little bit. And instead of being the front man, if you like, I wanted to show exactly who was guiding and who's doing much in the way of the work behind the scenes for me. And my guide is very, is wonderful, because the wisdom that comes from him and reaches me really has made my journey much easier and much clearer. And the philosophy behind him really has been the spur I needed to take me to this point. Philosophy is a great thing. But, you know, when I was thinking about coming on tonight and just talking about philosophy in general, because I don't claim to be an expert in any shape or form, all I can speak about is my take on the philosophy route, the philosophy that inspires me. So I hope that people will understand that. I'm not trying to thrust my philosophy on anyone. It's purely this kind of step back and looking at the way philosophy has guided me to this particular point in my life. But my guide has been influential in that, as well as reading much. I try and do quite a lot in the way of picking up from various books in particular, the philosophies behind a lot of these amazing people that have set the standard, if you like. But for me, my guide, who's been with me since I was small, has really overwhelmed me with the philosophy. It's all about love. And that's why I liken it to the kind of spiritualist view, if you like, that love really is a dominator for me in the way that I address my work and the way I take the work to others. His philosophy is just everything. And I have 2 books, as I say, that I write constantly in, that offers me that chance to give his words life.
Yeah.
And it's important I do that, yes.
And Elizabeth, can I ask you, when you are sitting with your guide, having this philosophy coming through, it sounds like you are writing in hand. With a pen. You mentioned the book you're writing in.
Very much so. It can be either or, really. I can be sitting in the power, and I get a lot that way as well. And I'll write it after sitting. I'll write a lot down, and it can be purely like this. If I'm sitting and I'm feeling that energy coming close, it can be given to me like that too. So it's really wonderful the way he can influence just that moment and offer it. I mean, it really is just an offering from him that I've been lucky enough to put down on paper. It's wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, and I recognize a little bit of it. I don't have books I put words in, but and I have to be honest, it's quite a few years since I last time wrote things, but I had a period of time where with my guide, I was getting all these small inspiration. I was making notes sometimes while driving in my car, just pulled over and made a little note. I have post-it marks all over the house with all kind of inspired writings there as well. But I got a little bit away from it. I think it's life has happened, if I can put it that way. But I believe I'll get back to it again. But Elizabeth, before we went live here, we were talking about about the written philosophy that, and we talked about during many years and decades, a lot of books have been written with philosophy. The one that has been is a big reference to is Silverbirch. But that's the last writings from Silverbirch is about 30 years back. Yes. So what have happened the last 30 years with written philosophy?
I think really certainly the introduction of the internet and that whole World Wide Web really is crying out and crying out for that kind of information to be just given and offered. And we have many people who are worthy of it, that could offer that out and do. And I do feel, I quite agree with you, Jack. I feel as if we are really in the throes now of needing that particular person, those philosophers, those really intellectuals that can offer what they know, what they feel. I mean, when I was reading today, I was actually going back to one, and believe it or not, it was Emanuel Swedenborg. And he was born in 1688. And he was an amazing philosopher. When you look at what he wrote of, and it was he's classed really as a father of modern spiritualism, and understandably so. He was a clever man who was matching everything. He was a scientist, he was a philosopher, and latterly in his later years, the mysticism took over and the interest in the spirit world took effect as well. And we have those books now that we can look back on and really learn from. But I totally agree that there is almost a void at this present time, and we need that certainly to be inspiring us.
Yes,
and taking us on.
And to me, like, I know Swedenborg. I've read a little bit of him. I know about some of the others, like Silverbirch and others. I think sometimes we forget that when we put so much focus, it's great value to look at the old philosophers, indeed. But I think the trap in the modern day we are falling in is we forget the new philosophy, don't we?
Yes.
And often see in churches for services and things like that, some of the readings often is like, I hear it a lot, or we have a reading of Silverbirch or something like that. And that right on top of it becomes, to me sometimes, a bit heavy, because the reading has been this kind of old-fashioned language.
Yes.
So it's that rest sometimes continue, not every time, but sometimes continue in that language. And everybody's talking about how do we get young people into the churches?
Yes.
And things like that. And I think sometimes we need to look at that aspect as well.
I think so. For me, it's the human aspect, Jack. It's always about, when I stand on a platform, And as I say, addresses, at one point I was totally not interested in doing. When I started all this mediumship, I always felt the addresses were beyond me. But what I did realise and did become to realise was that if you can keep that human aspect to any kind of address or philosophy that you attach to it, people relate to it much easier.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that you you stand in front of, especially in a church, are either grief-stricken, lost, depressed, lonely. That when we sit or we stand and give off that philosophy or that address, quite often doesn't reach them until we find that human aspect of us that can connect with them. And for me, that's that kind of living, working philosophy. Because when I was thinking today about what I would talk about and how philosophy has kind of shaped me, it all started with my mother and father.
Yeah.
You know, my mother and father were the epitome of love, patience, wisdom. I was so blessed, Jack, to have them. We all were in our family. And that was a start that shaped my kind of philosophical view, if you like, of life, as it probably did all those other amazing people from the past that went on and educated us, and still.
Yeah.
Because it all stems from that. It stems from your particular leanings and how you have shaped yourself, how life has shaped you as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yes.
And Elizabeth, we have a few people saying hello here. We have Susan, we have Phil, we have Jamie, we have John, we have Lola, we have Rish, we have Jen, and we have Teresa, and we have Marcus, and we have the lovely Tim Abbott. And that's great because it's going to be a busy night because Tim always have some good comments and questions as well. And Tim is writing here. Evening, Jack. Evening, Elizabeth. It's clear from what you're saying already, Elizabeth. You are inspired with your philosophy from your guide, but I have an understanding that it's acceptable to gain philosophy not only from your guide but from your own spirit or indeed unconscious. How do you feel about this?
Absolutely. Hi, Tim. Thanks for your question. That's lovely. Yes, I totally understand where you're coming from, and yes, that's all part. For me, it's all part and parcel. Just as I spoke there about coming from me, coming from the guide, coming from spirit, because we both understand each other in that respect, and we're working with the same aim, and that is to bring that philosophy, if we can, in clarity to the people that need it at any time. As I say, I'm not a wordsmith, but I do feel that words are really important and they have to be chosen properly, when, especially in the work that we do, when we're working with people who are very much vulnerable a lot of the time. The philosophy behind us as mediums and taking addresses, it's so important that we get the philosophy right, and it's very much working in cohesion with the guide, with spirit, with us, because ultimately if we're not in the right place, you can read and read and read as much philosophy as you like. If you're not in the right place as a person, that philosophy will fall on deaf ears because you aren't in the right place to deliver it. So thank you for that. That's a lovely question. I hope I've answered it in the right way. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that inspiration to our philosophy can come from basically anywhere, can't it?
Absolutely.
I know for myself when I'm doing an address, big part is inspired from this carnate spirit, part of it from the congregation, and part of it from my higher self.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's but that's I believe that what keeps the philosophy alive.
Absolutely.
In a way, and when we're looking at philosophy, it should be alive, shouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it will, as you say, Jack, move on. I think we will see so many different people coming forward, as they do. I mean, there are many people, very, very, very clever people, and people that are in tune, that we need to take the philosophy from. I'm a great believer in trying to live life true to you, true to your particular spirit. And that's where the philosophy starts, and that's where the philosophy will be offered from. If you can keep yourself true and clear in the way that is delivered, it has to be a good thing. Yes.
Yeah. And according to the newer books on philosophy, Tim is coming in here mentioning there's a wonderful book that has been written over the last few years called The Seven Principles by Minister Barry Oates. Worth a read. And Phil Shaw is mentioned here. Antonio Damasio, Ken Wilber, David Hyde, and Thomas More, all excellent 20th century spiritual philosophers worth checking out.
Absolutely.
And I totally agree. The new philosophies for us is out there.
Yes.
But you just never hear about them.
Yes, you're right. I think the spotlight needs to be kind of shown that way more so, because people would, I mean, they're hungry for it. People that are kind of doing certainly the spiritual route of things are hungry for that information and that evidence. That philosophy is everything. And as mediums, we should really be studying it in a deeper level, because it's so important. But yeah, certainly thanks, Phil and Tim. That's wonderful. I'll look a lot of those authors out. I have knowledge of 2 or 3, so that's lovely. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And Jamie is coming with a comment here. I think the best philosophy comes from the heart. I agree with that. When the heart is in it, it will have a pulse. It will come alive in a different way. And Tim is just coming with a comment on this. I think when we think of spiritual philosophers, we think of those in the past, because we live in the present philosophy. Should be relevant to today's society and our lives here now. I want to know how you feel about that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, books are wonderful, and historical books are amazing, because they put us in touch, again, going way back. But yes, it's very important that we create, or are seen to be listening to the philosophers of today, because ultimately it does reflect on today's society and how we as a world are actually living to that particular way of life. And the philosophy that we gain from that is immeasurable. I'm so, yes, definitely. Today's philosophers have much to give. And we are hungry, as I say, for that on the spiritual path. We are always open to it. And that's one of the things that I loved about the spiritualist kind of ethos, was we are open to much. There's no dogma. There's nothing attached to the way we can think or the way we should think, as long as we keep it to that love, peace, compassion, that whole route that spiritualists take. Absolutely, there's room there for more and more as we move on, because things change. Spirit, I feel it itself, the spirit in me changes as I age. You know, my guide is very much an energy who works with the present me, but has knowledge of me way, way back. And the philosophy that I'm taking from him now puts me in good stead for taking things forward. So yes, absolutely. I totally agree with what you say.
Yeah, and I believe, Elizabeth, that you might have had the same experience as me, that philosophy will evolve over the years.
Yes.
So different today from your own philosophy from your guide will be so different today from what was 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. It's really funny because I've just opened a page there, Jack. I've got my book in front of me here. And
Okay.
this was one that he offered me a while back. And it was just a couple of, it's not that long, but if you let me, that would be lovely to be able
Yeah,
to read.
sure. Please.
It just says, with the ebb of the tide, so comes the flow, and the constant from sun to moon. So the earth shall bring comfort and cast your footprint and your voice on this time. Your time is now. In what better way than to give service to spirit with love and humility? Make your voices heard. It's really strange. I opened it up there, and that was very relevant to the question. And again, that was written quite a while ago, but actually it was relevant for tonight. So that was nice that I offered that from him. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but we are talking about a lot about here the written philosophy.
Yes.
But I think we have to think about these days that books is becoming less and less, aren't they?
Yes.
We don't see as many bookshelves filled with books of all different kinds. It can be philosophy, it can be workbooks, it can be whatever. But books is becoming less and less. Everything becomes more and more digital. We can go and search on the internet, and my experience talking to a lot of people over the years is more and more people is getting their philosophy from memes on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, and that they can be inspiring in different ways, but at the same time, as I've experienced over the years, is because in schools and everything, the kids these days don't really learn to write properly, do they? Everybody is on a computer or tablet. This is here in Denmark anyway. I'm not sure how it is in UK. And so the handwriting is not the same. More and more young people are struggling reading.
Yes.
And we always talk about, oh, you have to read this book and this book. But a lot of people are not able to read books. It can be because of different reasons. It can be dyslexia, but it can be ADHD. The brain is spinning. They can't keep the focus. We have a lot of these youngsters these days, even our generation. We have a lot of these people, and not capable at sitting down, reading even even a little page in a book. And with that in mind, they have to depend on the spoken word then.
Yes.
And that's often becomes quite limited there. I know there are probably some YouTube videos and things are out there. You can go and search. But you know, what's your thought on that, Elizabeth?
Well, yes, again, the times have changed so much. And as I say, the internet in particular, the whole World Wide Web thing has introduced us to different versions of everything. You know, as tonight, we're sitting here tonight, and at one time that would just have been a total non-entity. We're able to actually express ourselves verbally online. And thankfully for that, it does help. But I totally agree that it is more an age of visuals and very much an age of the internet that young people are looking towards for information, for progression for any aspect of their lives, it all comes down to that web. And that has been part and parcel, I think, of the book reading has gone down in so much, so much. I mean, my kids are both of them were brought up with books, and I still love the book. I still, even on holiday, a lot of people will take Kindles and whatever else with them. I take the book because it's really important to me to see that written word, that word on paper. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing out. A lot of youngsters are perhaps missing that connection with the book, the words, the writing, the fact that somebody sat and you know, placed themselves in a position to do exactly that. This book was written by this energy, this person, whoever. You don't feel that when you're on the internet. It's a very misplaced kind of connection, I feel, and one that takes you away from that learning on paper, which I think is still really so essential. And that's where a lot of youngsters are missing out. Although they may not see it that way. You know, it's entirely a personal preference. But again, spiritually, when we're looking at trying to spread the word of spirit, most of it is being done now online. Unless you are, you know, lucky enough to have a church very close to you that you would pop in and actually sit and listen to the mediums, sit and listen to the addresses, sit and listen to the services. It can be quite difficult for them to grasp a lot of what we do, a lot of what we say. And it is a shame, I think.
Yeah.
But it's something we have to move with, because spirit are moving with it. So for me, I almost feel spirit are saying, well, you know, we can do this via these channels. We can do this. We have to do this to spread that word of spirit, and it will find its way. But yeah, I think the philosophy, you know, has to find that way as well as we move on. Definitely.
Oh, yes. And Rich just put in a question here. What is the solution to this, and how can we make a change? I believe that's regarding what we're just talking about. Many people are not, for different reasons, able to read a lot. I don't have the interest, as Phil is mentioning another comment here as well.
Yes, it's all. I mean, it is. It's all about helping, educating, helping those people along, because it's essential. Really, I do feel it is really and so important, and it's something I think, because of the modern age, that can be passed over for a lot of people that don't actually have that connection. It must be very, very difficult. The answer, well, I don't know. I think it has to be from the education side of things. It has to be opened up, and youngsters afforded that. It has to.
And
many aspects to it.
And now we are talking a little bit on education. We often talk about education within mediumship, and the medium should be educated more and things like that. But Elizabeth, do you think speakers, philosophers, whatever way we address them, could be educated more? I'm not thinking so much in how to be inspired, because we're all getting inspired different ways, but maybe in the way we present the philosophy by the spoken word, because it is different from the written word. Anyway, the written word, we have the chance to make some adjustments after it's been written. We can make changes and things. With spoken words, when it's been spoken, it's out there.
Yes, I mean, I know there. We spoke earlier, and I was talking about Albert Best. I actually read at one point that Albert, as a medium, preferred others sometimes to do the addresses, because he felt his mediumship was the reason that he was there at that time on platform, and he would have preferred that person to do the address, which often happened. As mediums today, I do feel sometimes that people are flung onto platform.
Yeah.
I'm not disrespecting anyone here, because it can be so hard. And I was one who I feel went on platform. And as I said to you earlier, Jack, it was all about mediumship for me. The philosophy, the address, until I realized that the philosophy and the address was so important to my mediumship as a platform medium, standing on a platform. That address and that philosophy was everything.
Yes.
Before mediumship even started. So it really has to, I feel, be part of your makeup to be able to offer that address and do your homework if need be. Quite often I feel spirit work with me when I'm giving an address. So I do feel that energy there when I go on platform, and I feel the energy coming through and working through me. So a lot of mediums work that way anyway, which is lovely, which is really lovely, because we are offering it from spirit in the way it was intended. Yes.
And Lisbeth, as we talked about just before we went live here as well, I mentioned the presentation, the way we present the words. We're talking about this, and I believe we often hear it, and to me, it's a bit of a lack of education how to speak, how to phrase things. But I hear a lot of addresses being put up. Oh, going to talk about love. You have to love. You need to love. You must love. You has to forgive. So it's become quite to telling people what to do.
Yes.
Instead of the inspiration that for me should be in the philosophy. That should be inspire me to love. That should inspire me to forgive, but not with a finger. You have to do. You need to do.
Yes. No, you're.
And I think it can be an easy trap to fall into, because sometimes, and I see that in various situations. But when we are talking about philosophy. Often for me, as I see and hear it, philosophy is often becoming the entire truth of the speaker. Yeah. So we can take a thing. Just I think we all know is the 7 principles. It's named the 7 principles, so it has boom, 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 boom. It's really, but the philosophy behind is really lovely.
Yes.
But often the 7 principles, I know it shouldn't be, but often I feel they are becoming presented as a set of rules you have to do like this and this, because it says so in its philosophy. And then to me, it's not a philosophy anymore.
Absolutely.
And that's a philosophy to me should be inspiring. If when I look at the philosophy, I look at philosophy like I look at a painting, a piece of art.
Yes.
We can both look at the same painting. I say, oh, I see so and so, and you will see so and so. It will touch us in different ways. It will touch both of us, but in different ways. And I believe that philosophy should be like that.
Yes, philosophy for me should touch the person's heart.
Yeah.
I think if you're giving an address, and as I say, you have to keep it heartfelt. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's sitting in front of you and ask yourself, would I like to hear this? Would I benefit from this address? Would I appreciate it? Because, as I say, when we have faces that come and sit in a church to hear an address, we have to involve them as equals. So they sit in front of us as equals, and we just offer the way we would offer anything to the man in the street, to the person you're passing as you go shopping. You know, we are, how's the word? We are very aware of the philosophy that's coming from our mouths, or should be.
Mm.
And in that way, I always feel that people can connect with you when you are talking from the heart, and more so from spirit. It can get lost, because when we start deliberating about, I mean, I've heard different addresses, and some are amazing and some are okay, and some you think, well,
yeah,
you know, and that's me included, you know, me offering addresses. I thought sometimes I could have done better here, or I could have offered this, because people sometimes aren't in a place to listen about various aspects that you're bringing up. The one thing that they will listen to is the one thing that will touch them that you talk of. And that could be very personal to you, it could be personal to them. But that for me is the crux of philosophy and addresses. And to be aware of that and never lose that is so, so important. And people will sit in front of you and they will hear you and they will listen. And I hope that they take something from that address, because really it has to touch people, or we've lost the whole idea. My lights are going, Jack. I'm going to have to go and switch this light off. As I've been talking here, the lights have been changed. I think they're working. I don't know whether it's my electric or whether it's spirit, but they're going a bit funny. So I'm just going to be 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So
that was strange.
Yes, but okay, you're back already. That was quick. Yes, but just a comment or a question from Jamie here. Do you have any suggestions how we as mediums can best interpret the philosophical principles in the language and experiences of audiences today?
Well, I don't know if we're talking, I mean, if we're talking specifically, I mean, I'm on about the 7 principles. If people are spiritually kind of led by the spiritualist ethos, which are the 7 principles. I mean, again, as I say, keeping those addresses and the philosophy behind the principles, if you're that way inclined, has to be of a human side, and making it personal when you're voicing anything to do with spirit. It has to be personal. It has to reach people.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, Jamie. It's really hard to, you know, we are always looking at ways of trying to address things in a different way, in a more heartfelt way, I think. And I think it's really needed, because we can get lost in all the words otherwise. The philosophy is so important. But I think if you come from the right place, then you can't go wrong with philosophy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just looking through some of the comments here. Yes. Rich is saying here the educational system has failed many, and there needs to be a quickening of the unlearning and things to be done differently now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And that makes me think of both with our kids in the school, but also as we were talking about the educational of the grown-ups as us. And even though the 2 of us are quite young, Elizabeth, we are dinosaurs in many ways, aren't we?
Oh, yes, fair enough. Yes.
So how do we continue to educate ourselves, both as mediums, but I believe as philosophers as well. I believe part of it can be, of course, reading a lot of books, but but I'm not. I don't read a lot of books, but I listen a lot, and getting inspired within my own philosophy that way. So I believe there's many different ways. It's a personal journey in many ways, but I think that's when we are looking at the educational system within mediumship, within the philosophy, and all, even in healing, all the way around. It's kind of a philosophy at all, isn't it? But looking at how we actually are phrasing things, what words are we using, as we talked about a little bit earlier here. And whilst I'm sitting here waffling away, I can see Tim has put a comment here. I don't know if you know, but there's Public Speaking World Championship, and you can go online and see and listen to the World Championship addresses. Whilst they're not spiritual in nature, you can learn a lot from the format and certainly be inspired by them. Yeah, I didn't know about that, Tim. So thank you for sharing that. I'll try to look that up myself.
Yes.
But yeah,
I mean, there's nothing better than listening to a great speaker, is there?
No.
Somebody, as I say, when we go back even to the educational side, when I think back to my school days, a lot of my teachers a lot of them terrified me. I mean, I was brought up really, a lot of the teachers never inspired me because they were very, very, not dictatorial, but a lot of them, when I was of an age when I really wanted to really take things on that bit further, the one person that did inspire was my English teacher, who was a great teacher and would hold my attention for such, every time that I would be sitting in the class, that teacher made the difference and inspired me to do more with that. And that is where we fail a lot of the children, because they're not getting that inspiration isn't there. And that inspiration is so needed for them, because that really is the start that will take them so far. If their English language pulls them in, they can't fail. And that's where the educational system needs to really, I feel, it's almost like it needs a bit of a jig around. Because a lot of kids aren't leaving school and feeling that wealth of language that we were quite lucky. I felt I was very fortunate that I had that teacher. Some of my other teachers, wouldn't inspire me at all to go on and do do those particular subjects. So we have to get that inspiration out there and get people listening that want to listen and want to be speakers themselves. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just noticed a comment here from Susan. Has philosophy mostly already been written throughout the ages and periodically been brought up to date, written in the language of the collective understanding of the day? Therefore, is anything truly new in philosophy today?
That's a good question. That's a great question, Susan. Again, from my perspective, it's always a personal journey. Philosophy is really what we make of it. Philosophy is what we take and what we go with, and how we see our philosophical side as we journey through it. So it's all individual. I always think there's room for philosophy and philosophers to come forward as the world turns and as the earth is still turning. We always need that new voice, or those voices that will help us understand much about everything, and not just, I do feel that everyone has that voice, and everyone in their own way is on that philosophical route. So yeah, I do think it's it's important that the people today have that voice and can see it as their philosophy, if nothing else, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I do believe that I don't believe that all philosophy has been written, because
No.
new people, new spirit comes every day, new experiences in different ways. So I believe the philosophy is alive, it's growing, it's exploring, it's a change, if we allow it to.
Absolutely.
If we
Yes.
allow it to, and only if we allow it to. If
Well, yes.
we keep being stuck in how it should be, how it used to be, and things like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
because it's our purpose.
it will just be a rephrasing with more modern words. But where goes it with the new inspiration, the new philosophy?
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
modern world. It's a modern philosophy.
Absolutely, Jack. Yes.
So, so thank you, Susan. Jamie, and I love to listen to Jamie talking about philosophy, because he has so much knowledge. So thank you
Yes.
for Jamie for being with us tonight. Jamie's saying here, talking of education, it seems a shame that when you look at many of the spiritual or mediumship workshops and online courses today, very few even mention philosophy.
Absolutely.
That's
That's very well said, Jamie. Yeah, I totally agree. And it is more and more, as I say, about the mediumship side of things, in that the medium itself seems to be the centre. If we do any of those online workshops, I do a lot of them myself, courses, a lot of the some of the problems though that we kind of encounter, because I do throw things out there and ask people what they would like workshops to entail, what they would like to see in workshops. And I've mentioned philosophy in quite a few of my different kind of letters, whatever you would like to address it as, when I've been putting things out there to try and find out what we could be doing. Philosophy wasn't entering the equation at all, because mostly people are coming forward. This mediumship is everything. And again, it's such a shame that the philosophy side of things is almost shelved. And that, you're right, we should be bringing that front and centre before a medium even thinks to be going on platform. The philosophy, or at least the understanding of that philosophy in them, should be first and foremost before a medium tries to do anything else, because that's where we come from. That's where we take our work from and offer it to other people. So that's a really good question, a really good statement, actually, because it has to be really something that we take forward. And I certainly will, Jamie. I certainly will.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think what often is forgotten is that being a speaker, being a philosophy speaker, philosophical medium, that's mediumship as well.
Yes.
Mediumship is not only about bringing evidence. That's a big part of it, indeed.
Yes.
But without the philosophy, to me, mediumship is nothing.
I feel it's empty without the philosophy,
Exactly.
without your take on the philosophy, Jack.
Yeah.
We're empty. We're empty vessels. We're offering mediumship behind that. Where are we standing? Who are we? What do we do? So totally, I get that.
And Jamie, we're probably gonna use you in pool at some time, because I know there's plans for next year with a new education regime within mediumship that will include the philosophy as well.
Oh, that's lovely.
So that's a thing to look forward to. So that's built in that education scheme that is coming up. So that's definitely a thing that's in my opinion, is needed to be looked more into.
Yes,
Not,
yes.
not
It's made me think more. Yes.
Yeah, both to support the mediumship, but also to support spiritualism.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's got to be good, definitely.
Yeah.
But I do. But as I say, I always go when I do speak about my. I remember a friend saying to me years ago, before I actually started my mediumship, although I had the connection. I remember a friend saying to me, because she was a really devout churchgoer, and rightly so, she loved her church. But because I never actually went to the church and I wasn't a regular churchgoer, she almost kind of discounted me as of any worth. It was really I was quite shocked, because she saw me as someone really who was more or less lost, because I never attended church on a regular basis, and she did. And she was talking of, you need the church, you need to be part of this, whatever, to take yourself forward. And I said, I don't think so, Mary, because it starts here, in here. It starts with me. Anything that I am starts here. And I don't feel I need anything or anyone at this point to do it for me. And for me, it was probably a good thing, because it opened my eyes very much to my journey that I'm on now. And it's been a wonderful take on, not to get too deep-seated in how things should be. It should be you that's taking things forward, how you should be, and you'll find yourself in the right place, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely. And Jamie's just adding here, should we be talking about spiritual and personal development as well as mediumship skills rather than just philosophy? Yeah, definitely. I agree. I agree, Jamie. We should. And that should be a part of an education system. Just briefly, it's not going to be about what is going on next year, but still, the education scheme we are talking about here is basically it starts with yourself, knowing yourself, knowing your own energy before anything else is done, before even reading anybody else, connected with anybody. It's about yourself. That's totally basic, the foundation that everything else will be built on. It will go into mediumship. There will be a bit of psychic. There will be philosophy. There will be an aspect of healing and so on, because it's kind of all coming together.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah. And Tim is a man with a lot of knowledge as well, a great speaker. Oops. I just lost my earplugs here. I'll get them back in.
That's fine.
In Britain, philosophy is a legal requirement in spiritualism. In 2013, Lord Tolson introduced a ruling that within a divine service, there should be an element of teaching for the religion to hold onto the title of religion that is achieved within spiritualism through the philosophy.
Yes. Yes, I get that, Tim. Thanks for offering that. Actually, it's true.
Yeah.
And it's so important. Yes.
So yes. And
yes.
Elizabeth, we still have another 5 minutes.
Yes.
Have you anything on your mind, on your heart, you want to share with people here before we finish this live?
Well, actually, I'm just looking at my wee book here again, and what I've written that the guide had offered me quite a while ago now, and it just says here, to be a soul of worth on this earthly journey, one needs to be devoid of ego and self-gratification, but never forfeiting your health, your well-being, For it is your love and your fortitude that shall give strength and comfort. And at the end of your earthly journey, the greatness of any soul will be reasoned in the treasured memories left in the souls of others. I thought that was quite a nice one to finish on.
Oh, definitely, yes. And I believe that's quite essential. It's quite essential how we, as mediums, as speakers, as human beings, as well,
Yes.
can bring the realms together
Absolutely.
in an understanding, and within that understanding, a healing process in my mind.
Yes. Lovely,
Yes.
Jack. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Elizabeth, just before we are finishing here, and saying thank you to you, I just have a few notices to come out with. Tomorrow, Sunday, at 11 o'clock, in church, there's the lovely Kim Moore-Cullen that have been doing a workshop there today and different things, but she's taking the divine service tomorrow morning, and it will be streamed out on Pool's Facebook page and on YouTube as well there. Monday evening, it's healing night in church. Wednesday, it's open circle day, and on Wednesday as well, there's cafe nights. So come along down in the church. There will be a cafe environment where the subject will be what is psychic, and that's part 2. So it is a continuous thing from the last cafe nights. If you haven't been there in the last one, I'm sure you will be. It will be easy to catch up with things there as well. Friday, there is the bereavement group in the church as well. And next Saturday, another Lyceum, same time, same place. Won't be the same people on screen though, but every Saturday a new Lyceum. So thank you everybody out there for participating this hour here with Pool Christian Spiritualist Church, and thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining here yet again. It has been a lovely evening. It has been wonderful chatting with you here.
Same here.
So
lovely. Thanks so much for asking me along. It's been so nice.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
You're so welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.